How was the marathon? Well, thanks for asking. So, I'll do this chronologically, and there'll be parts where I hesitate because I haven't thought about it, and there'll be parts that I just whip through because I've had this conversation with a dozen friends already. But chronologically, here's how my marathon went. At the start line, by the way, my goal was around 3:15. I was hoping sub 3:15. My goal was in the ballpark of 3:15. So at the start, I lined up behind the 3:30 pacer with my eye on the 3:15 pacer because I wanted to go out nice and slow and controlled and build up to my pace. So I did that. I never saw the 3:15 pacer again. Like he completely got away from me. But I very early on, very comfortably, caught up to the 3:30 pacer, John, and surpassed him and had a good buffer. And we got all the way up to Bowness, where the turnaround was, and I was still feeling great in the 80% range. Like, if you ask me, how are you doing? I would say 8 out of 10. Got to the turnaround, strong, confident, and I was like, all right, now just run back. And for anyone not in Calgary, when you're in Bowness and you have to run back to downtown, it's a little daunting because you realize how fucking far that is. But it was on that stretch, which really was just one long, gentle jog down Memorial, that I looked back at one point because I felt myself like starting to get in the fight, starting to hit that like 6 out of 10 range of how I felt. And I was just telling myself like, yep, we're just running it in. You just got to stay consistent for the remainder of this run. And I looked back at one point, didn't see the 3:30 pacer, John. And so I was like, okay, I'm good. And then at one point, I finally did. I was running, and someone from the sidelines yelled like, yeah, 3:30 group. And I heard John encouraging the people around him, like, yep, we're going to get this, guys. We're on 3:30 pace. And I was like, oh, crap. So I was losing power. And I started to get frustrated because it wasn't a cardiovascular thing. I was totally fine. I was not even sweating. I was able to converse. Like at one point, when I started to hurt even more, someone was coming alongside me at close to my pace, and they were also struggling. And I was like, "How you doing, man?" He's like, "I'm doing all right. You know, we just gotta run this in. It's a good day for it and everything." I was like, "Yeah, that was great." Totally conversational. Like I was not struggling at all. It's just I kept getting less and less power out of my legs, and they started to hurt more and more and more, and like they were cramping as well as just throbbing. My ankles hurt, my knees hurt, my calves really hurt, and I was slowing down because I was wincing and I was getting less of a stride every step because my legs just didn't want to move that much. So I could surge a little bit for a couple of seconds. I could just concentrate and make it happen, but it would always just fade away, and eventually I was absorbed into the 3:30 pack and then held there as long and as hard as I could. And that's actually when I saw my friend John, who had to back out of the marathon because he blew his knee. He was on the sideline, and I was waiting to see someone, like to see a friend on the sidelines, and I was expecting that to bolster me. But like I said, this wasn't a mental or emotional problem. This was a straight up physical problem. And it was right after I saw John that the 3:30 group dropped me. I thought maybe it was my calf sleeves because they bother me if I wear them for long enough. So I stopped and took them off, which is when a cop talked to me, asked me if I was okay, said he was going to send a medical person to talk to me, and I was already moving again. when that had happened, but that was the start, and that was around kilometer 36, which was the start of the meltdown. So I'd faded I'd stopped, taken off my calf sleeves, got back up to a jog, but I was wincing so hard and in so much pain that I just bit the bullet and stopped and walked. Because when I was jogging, I consciously thought, I can walk faster than this. And I could. I switched to a walk, and I could walk faster than I was running. And so I walked towards the Center Street Bridge. Again, for Calgarians, this makes sense. For anyone else, apologies. But I finished up the last kilometer of Memorial, got to the bridge. I walked across the bridge in just tremendous pain, and I didn't know what I was really thinking then, because I wasn't thinking anything except, oh my god, this really hurts, and I'm limping a lot. And I got across the bridge, and it was after the bridge that I was like, fuck it, I'm done. There's no point in being in this much pain to walk 5 more kilometers for a 4:15 marathon time. This is not the most efficient use of my time right now. But there was nothing I could do. I was just standing on the course. I was doubled over in pain. And if someone had stopped at that point, like a cop or a medical person, and said, like, do you want to quit and go to the med tent, I would say yes. Because that is what I wanted at the time. That's what I thought was the best thing to do. But since there was no one around, I had no choice but to just limp forward. And in my goal, this is the moment where there was a race volunteer, a young girl, and she was being so falsely positive. Because I got close to her as I was walking, she's like, you can do it out there. It's gonna be great. You just gotta blah, 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 blah. And it's like, she could tell that I was in tremendous pain and emotional distress. She just had nothing else to do. Like, she had no other tools in her toolbox other than, like, being the fakest cheerleader anyone's ever seen. And I was furious and disgusted with her, which is not an emotion I'm proud of, but I just head down, walk forward, and there was an aid station not too far away. 400 meters maybe. And I was like, when I get there, I will stop and drink an entire cup of water. Because when you're running, you just kind of throw the water at your face. Like, you just don't get much. And I was like, I'm going to drink a cup of water. That was my only goal. At that point, I had stopped, because I'd already decided, like, my race was over. And I wasn't thinking far ahead whatsoever anymore. It was just like, what's the exact next action I'm going to take? It's like, I'm going to get there and drink a cup of water. And did that. And then the next person in line had a gel, so I took a gel. And the next person in line had an electrolyte drink. And I was like, yeah, take down an entire cup of water and take down a gel while I'm barely moving, like I'm walking. So I can really take it down and not worry about my breathing or it sitting weird in my stomach. Took down an electrolyte drink after that. Walked a little further, and I was like, you know, I'll test another jog. And I jogged, and it didn't hurt. It didn't make me double over in pain. It still sucked. Like, it was an awful, awful form, and I was moving super slow. But I was like, I can keep moving. And I think at that time, I still wasn't thinking about the end of the race. I was, like, so focused in on just, like, testing if I could move. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what it meant if I could or couldn't move. I just knew that that's what I was doing. I was testing if I could move. And so I tested it and ended up finishing the race. Not strong. Terrible form. I felt awful. I was sad. I was worried. And I was like, yep, this is going to be a medical tent situation. Like, I'm not going to be happy when I cross the line. I'm just going to go find a medical person to look at my leg. And yeah, I got up to a jog. And at one point there was someone, I don't know which company here in town was doing it, but we passed a frozen yogurt place that was delightfully giving out samples to runners. And I was like, yes, I just want some sugar, and something cold would be delightful. So, shout out to whatever frozen yogurt that was. But yeah, I jogged it in, I crossed the line, I went to the medical tent. They completely brutalized me. Getting the physio that I got from a fantastic person. I wish I'd asked her name, because she was delightful. But she absolutely tortured me. The pain of getting physio was way, way worse than the pain I was in. But I did feel ever so slightly better after that. And then, very, very late, I went to the brunch that I had planned, and I was not at all in a celebratory mood. So it was just a chat. It was nothing like I had envisioned. And I had originally planned that I was going to give my medal to my best friend at the brunch. I was like, yep, this is my marathon medal, and I want you to have it. And it was going to signify, it was going to be signify our friendship and whatnot. I thought that would be a really nice gesture and everything like that, because I don't really care about collecting paraphernalia from runs. I remember all my runs really well. I don't need those memories to be stimulated by a touchstone. But then, I was so unproud of the medal that I was like, I just have to keep it. I guess it's the opposite of a good memory touchstone now, where it's like, I didn't want to give it to a friend, because it's to me, the medal signifies biting off more than I can chew, and being kind of cocky, and not being prepared. And it's not that I was, not prepared or anything like that. It's just that running a marathon is hard. And I was technically up to the challenge. I didn't do it with the grace and the power that I wanted to do it. So the medal signifies nothing. And by the way, since I haven't said it, 3:43 was my chip time, or my gun time, I can't remember. But my gun time and my chip time were 3:43 and 3:44. But I've been telling everyone that I crossed the line at 3:45 just to round off. So 3:45 is my first marathon time. And yeah, went to brunch and I was sore. I went to work the next day, a little bit sore, but not too bad. I was still worried, particularly about what I'm told is my IT band on my right side. I feel like it's a knee problem, but I'm not an expert. That's just how it feels to me. My subjective sense is that there's something wrong with the outside of my knee. But yeah, foam rolling every day and whatnot. And then I started the recovery week, and that meant 45 minutes of elliptical cardio, and then a 3-mile run, and then a 5-mile run today, and then a rest day. Today, an 8-mile run. And I do feel like no fear or hesitation about doing an 8-mile run, so I'd say I'm recovered. And for the immediate future, I've got a 10K run in 14 days. So I just gotta build up to that. I would like it to be a ripping fast 10K. My hope when I was planning out my race year was that this is going to be a PR 10K. I want 40 minutes, because right now my best 10K is 42. But trepidation because of how my legs feel, and again, for Calgarians and Western Canadians, for the amount of smoke in the air from the forest fires because the world is dying. I'm also really worried. I'm just scared to run outside, and yeah, it's bad. But furthermore, my long-term plans are originally before the marathon, I was going to sign up for a 61K race next year and do my first ultra. Now, with the marathon not going the way that I wanted it to, and the 61K race is the Run for Water. It takes place in early June. June 6th is when it's happening this year. And it's a week after the Scotiabank Marathon, so I can't do both. But I've now decided that I'm more anxious to get a good marathon time under my belt than I am to do an ultra just to say I've done an ultra. I'm more concerned about having a strong foundation than doing something badly just to say that I'm still making forward progress. So I've decided I'm going to run the Scotiabank Marathon again next year, again with 3:15 being the goal. And yeah, I'm still going to train as if I were training for an ultra. But yeah, so now ultra marathoning is on the bucket list. It's a someday thing, and getting a good marathon time under my belt is my highest running priority right now. And I might see if there's another marathon this year that I can run, but one, there actually aren't that many full-length marathons around, especially when traveling is hard and expensive and I don't have the money. Because there's the Banff Marathon, but I'm already going to Banff for the Melissa's half marathon, and spending 2 weekends in Banff is 4 times more than I can afford to spend. So, yeah. But for the remainder of this year, I've got my 10K, I've got a half marathon in July. I'm going to sign up for, if I can afford it, the Spartan race in August, and then half marathon out in Banff in September. That'll be my year. I'll take a month, if not 2 months, to really focus on bodybuilding and strength training and let running take a back seat for a while. And then in December, start the program for running an ultra, which I will use to train for the Scotiabank Marathon. So this time next year, we're going to have this conversation again after a better marathon.